Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Brent Hyde, taking a look at tonight's nine-game Thursday slate. Not a ton of weather concerns like the past few days, but a little bit of rain in Philly and Atlanta, but not too much to worry about.
Yeah, it's nice not having like every East Coast game in question for a slate for once, although that probably changes tomorrow. But we call it a 9-game slate, man. This slate's kind of blah. I'm not a huge fan of this slate at all tonight.
Yeah, I found myself kind of like narrowing out games where like games I only ended up like talking about or writing about like two or three players max, and then there were a couple other ones where I had like 5 to 10.
Yeah, when Cole Hamels is the highest priced pitcher on the slate, you know it's really not a very good slate.
And look at tomorrow; it's not like we have a load of aces on there either.
Yeah,
We're in a little bit of a dry spell.
yeah, need to get back to some aces on some slates.
I mean, Scherzer's just probably dying to pitch, being rained out probably twice in a row now.
The next time he's going to pitch, he's going to be on like 14 days rest.
San Diego, Pittsburgh here. Eric Lauer taking on Chad Kuhl. Two guys that just have pretty severe splits. Two guys that I know you really like here. You got both teams in your stacking article today, and just for good reasons.
Yeah, I wrote both these guys up because of their like insanely large splits. Obviously, Eric Lauer, 16 inning sample size, so probably need to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I don't expect that he's going to give up like 51% hard contact and a 483 WOBA to right-handed hitters for the entirety of the season. That being said, he is still struggling against right-handed hitters, so I love the Pittsburgh bats here, especially if you consider the fact that they can get really, really, really right-handed here.
Yeah, and like looking at Lauer, low 90s fastball that he's throwing, 60% of the time. His changeup hasn't, generated a swing and miss yet. So like he still is bad. He's very bad.
Yeah, he is.
Pittsburgh here, I think this is one of the lineups that obviously we're going to need to see when it comes out because there's a couple of guys like Starling Marte and Francisco Cervelli who are injured potentially day to day. But either way, like there's still just plenty of bats you can load up on here.
Yeah, like even if Marte doesn't get in the lineup, you're still gonna get probably what, 7 righties here. They I know they rolled Polanco out yesterday. He was like the only lefty, but you're gonna get like Max Moroff probably leading off. You're gonna get, if Marte's out, you're probably gonna get like David Freese up on that 3 hole. Josh Bell got the day off yesterday. They batted Osuna cleanup, but without Marte, or if they decide not to put Polanco out there, you could get Bell and Osuna in that lineup. I love just about anyone in that lineup is in play for me today, like every single one of them. I love Osuna and Sean Rodriguez as like my top 2 options there, but it's really tough to overlook Max Moroff if he's going to be leading off in that spot.
Yeah, definitely. Like I like the catching options as well. I expect Diaz to be in the lineup just because Cervelli banged up a little bit. 346 WOBA, 143 ISO against lefties. Pretty decent for his price. He's fairly cheap.
Yeah, this is. I mean, everybody in this lineup is cheap. Like it doesn't matter who you look at. Even if you look at like, I mean, Starling Marte is 4,900. That's not really that cheap, but everybody else in this lineup is just dirt cheap. Like I was talking to you yesterday, whenever I built my lineup based off the stacking guys that I put in my lineup, like, and that was with Cole Hamels, the most expensive pitcher on the site. I still had like 4,100 left over on DraftKings because these guys are just way too cheap.
Yeah, I mean, this game is in general, like, moving over to the Padres side of things here, like looking at the lefties against Cool, none of them are over 4K. Like even Eric Hosmer and Travis Jankowski, who's been on fire, has been one of the best hitters in May so far. And 3.9, 3.8, you got Franchi 3.7, Rafael Lopez 3K. Like a lot of these guys are just super cheap.
Yeah, and Vegas is like way, way off the Padres, and I wrote them up as more of like a contrarian stack. I don't mind stacking this game just in general because San Diego can load up lefties in this lineup, and Chad Kuhl this season, 400 WOBA, 338 ISO allowed to lefties, dating back to last season, 379 WOBA, 246 ISO allowed. Man, this is such a good spot for these Padres lefties, and people are just going to overlook them because of the Padres, and everyone thinks they're terrible. But like you mentioned, Travis Jankowski has been just ridiculously good so far. Like he's a guy like this season, 449 WOBA, 478 on base percentage against right-handed pitching. Obviously, that's going to come down. I mean, in his career, or like dating back last season, only 327 WOBA, but he's still just a good on base bat. Franchi Cordero over the last like week is like ninth in baseball and hard hit at like almost 62%. Power option here against Cool, who has not been able to keep lefty power in check. And even like Eric Hosmer, Rafi Lopez, Freddie Galvis, Corey Spangenberg, any lefty that gets in that lineup is in play. And like I said, they can load up lefties here.
Yeah, and this is, the only downgrade here is the ballpark. And for some reason, Cool has been a guy who just doesn't pitch well at PNC either.
I know. I mean, I know it's a pitcher's park, but like guys like with power guys like Franchi Cordero, it doesn't matter because he's going to hit it like 500 feet.
Yeah, and there's so much extra base hit upside, like there's a lot of double and triple potential for these guys because these guys all have some decent speed as well.
Yeah, for sure, especially someone like Jankowski.
Yeah. Oakland, Toronto next here. Aaron Sanchez taking on Andrew Triggs. Vegas is obviously pretty high on both these offenses here, although I think you can make the case for these pitchers as well. I don't mind them in GPPs. I'm kind of going back and forth on some of the guys that I like. I think Sanchez is a little bit interesting at 5'7", and I don't think he's as bad as what he's been this year. Hasn't gone terribly deep into games. Walks have killed him a little bit, but he is a solid ground ball guy.
Yeah, I just don't know that he has a strikeout upside tonight. Like, and that may be the case with just about everyone we're talking about. But I mean, this season, 15.5%, dating back to last season, 15%. I know this is a athletics team that can strike out a lot at times, but like you put some of these bats in a park like this, and like I know Sanchez is a ground ball guy, but I don't know. I guess if you're just trying to be different in tournaments, you can roll out Sanchez. I just don't see any upside even at that price.
I mean, that's like you said, that's the thing with this slate. There's just not a lot of strikeout pitchers. Like, Velasquez, 7,300, you got some upside there. You have upside with some of the guys like Hamels and Skaggs tonight, but I don't know. I'm kind of with you. Like, I think you can make the case to use Sanchez here. I think Triggs is interesting as well, but there are a couple of guys that I really, really like. Matt Joyce and Matt Olson really stand out against Sanchez just because they're awesome against sinkers and even changeups as well. And especially Matt Joyce, like 3K for him, and I feel like he's going to be one of my home run calls later on.
Yeah, it's a great spot, definitely for Matt Joyce. I think he homered last night too. 235 ISO, 346 WOBA dating back to last season. As you mentioned, he mashes sinkers, a 208 ISO dating back to 2016. So it's a good spot for him. Jed Lowry still continues to be a solid hitter. That's another lefty against Sanchez. 363 WOBA dating back to last season, almost 200 ISO. Not great against sinkers, only 174 ISO dating back to 2016, but like 40% hard contact, almost 90% contact rate. So that's a pretty solid number. Matt Olson, as you mentioned, contact rate's low on sinkers, only like 73%, but 313 ISO. So good spot for him. And then if they put anyone else in that lineup, like any other lefties, I don't even know how many more they have that they could, but you could look at those guys as well.
Yeah, like I don't know if Fowler could get back in the lineup. He'd be interesting because I know they didn't option him back down, which was good.
Yeah, they didn't. So he would be another guy to consider. And I don't even mind like the righties that hit sinkers really well, like Chris Davis, Matt Chapman, Mark Canha. Some of these guys do hit sinkers really, really well. I don't mind using them either.
Yeah, I think you can stack the A's here in tournaments, and I was looking ahead at Friday already last night, and like they face Marco Estrada, so like it could be back-to-back games here where they get some good stuff.
Oh yeah, good some A's against Estrada.
You can tell how much we're excited about this slate when we've talked about tomorrow already.
Well, to be fair, in my defense, I have to cover 15 games for the cheat sheet, so I had to get a little bit of a head start.
True. Toronto side of things here. I do think Triggs has some strikeout upside. Like a guy who throws a slider 27% of the time dating back to last year, 23% curveball, and a pretty good, curveball and slider. Like it's just his fastball and sinker that get crushed. So I think he's an interesting GPP play because I also think Toronto's going to be super popular.
I think they will too, and this is a situation where anytime you get a pitcher with a somewhat decent slider, it's someone that I at least have to consider against the Blue Jays. I wish Triggs wasn't a guy that has struggled as much as he has this season, because I would have more interest in him. But like he's had some really good games. We saw like the Baltimore and the Texas outing, and then we've seen him just get completely shelled by like the White Sox and some of these other just putrid offenses. Tournament option, definitely. At that price, I think I might rather go with like Soroka. But this is still a decent spot. I think you can consider him. And the only bats really that I'm concerned against him would be like Teoscar Hernandez, Josh Donaldson.
Yeah, it's the usual suspects. I think Granderson and Smoke are also interesting options from the left side. 45% hard contact rate to the left side this year, and both those guys, and just Nash sinkers as well.
Yeah, the whiff rates are a little concerning for like Granderson and Smoke against sliders, but yeah, if you wanted to stack in like tournaments,
yeah, you go with those guys. The problem is like I don't mind Solarte either, and like DraftKings, you can play like him and Donaldson together, but FanDuel you can't. I mean, you could, but I'm not using Solarte. I think in addition to like a Toronto stack.
Yeah, probably not.
So yeah, I feel like this is a good game to target, though. Obviously, big bump in the Rogers Center for these offenses.
Yeah, for sure.
Baltimore, Boston, Kevin Gausman versus David Price. It's really weird. Gausman against the Red Sox is either just completely awful or really, really good.
Yeah, I actually have interest in him here. Is that crazy? Like I know. Yes. I mean, the slate is terrible anyway. So like, why not just take a shot on a pitcher that no one's really going to use because Boston's projected for like 5 million runs, like they are every single night. And like I don't know, Gausman has looked much better since like the start of the season. Like I noted the adjustments that he started to make. In that Cleveland start, prior to that Cleveland start, and since then, like outside of the Detroit start, like has been really good. Like he's been over 20 fantasy points on DraftKings in 3 of his last 4 games.
I don't hate him as a GPP option here. Like, he's shown the upside against Boston and predominantly the same lineup. The only thing that's been new is JD Martinez this year. And I mean, current lineup here, 42 for 191, 220 average with the 21% strikeout rate. Like, I do think there is some upside, especially if that splitter is going, because not a lot of these guys particularly hit that splitter well outside of like Hanley Ramirez in a small sample size. Yeah, I think as long as he can locate his fastball, like he'll be fine. If he can't, he'll get absolutely roped.
Probably, and I mean, you're already most likely looking at just tournaments on SP2 sites anyways, because pitching is just really, really bad tonight. So, like, again, I don't mind taking a shot there. And you are a little bit worried, like JD Martinez, as we mentioned yesterday, has been just ridiculously on fire. He hit a homer last night. 3 homers in his last 4 games. That is a little concerning. But yeah, I think in tournaments, he's just a fine option.
Yeah, I do too. And it is really the bigger outfield guys and like Alexander Bogaerts that I have interest in, because it's where I don't have a lot of Boston interest, like outside of basically those 3-4 names.
Yeah, and I wouldn't hate like Mitch Moreland as like a home run bat, like if you wanted to try to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Baltimore side things here against Price. I don't have any interest in Price here.
You mean you're not buying into like the resurgence from that Toronto start?
I am not. There's just not like if we're like streaming on Twitch like Fortnite tournaments, then I would have interest in David Price.
I don't know. He may not even be good at Fortnite. Who knows?
That's true.
Maybe that's why he was so willing to give it up.
He was just a league average Fortnite player.
Just like he is a league. Actually, I'd say he's probably below league average at this point as far as pitching goes.
Yeah, I don't. He's just not been that good, and there's a lot of bats I have interest in. And like obviously, Manny Machado's a guy who's just been crushing lefties, but Jonathan Scope, I'm just absolutely in love with tonight. 349 WOBA against sinkers, 381 WOBA against cutters. Both two pitches that Price is throwing about 70% of the time combined, and they're not really doing that well this year.
No, they're not. And you mentioned Manny Machado, like against sinkers, 203 ISO. That's pretty solid numbers. Um, Only 189 ISO against cutters, but I'm still okay using him. Chris Davis, lefty on lefty. Maybe he hits another lefty on lefty home run because he has really good numbers against cutters. This is a very interesting stack, and like I hate stacking Baltimore. Like I absolutely hate it because they'll be in like really, really, really good spots and they'll put up like 2 runs. And it'll be like a Chris Davis lefty on lefty homer or something that gets it. But like this is still a good spot for them. I don't hate the stack at all.
No, I don't either. I like Trey Mancini as well, 267 ISO against lefties this year. And leading off there, he's been a guy who's been swinging a hot bat lately.
Yeah, he has improved a lot this season. Like if you look his numbers against lefties dating back to last season, not that great. 155 ISO, 334 WOBA, but as you noted, he is looking a little bit better against lefties this season.
Yeah, and he's a guy who hit the balls hard still. Definitely improved that ground ball rate because he was just mashing everything in the ground.
Yeah, although I guess this season it's what 63% and 28% hard contact, so maybe some regression is in store. Like I mean, almost 38% home run to fly ball rate. So maybe it's tough to say if he's going to continue or when he might regress, but until he does, like I don't mind continuing.
No, I don't either. So I would have the interest in some of the other guys like Valencia or Trumbo, but third base is loaded tonight with some other bats that I want to pay up for.
Yeah, for sure. Don't overlook like as I mentioned, the Chris Davis interesting bat there, but like Craig Gentry down towards the bottom of that lineup could be interesting too.
Yeah, for sure. Philly, St. Louis, Luke Weaver taking on Vince Velasquez. Velasquez, I think, popped up a little bit here when you mentioned him before the show just because of how good he's been against righties, and this is a pretty righty-heavy lineup, and we just look at the lefties. Carpenter, I think, is going to come around at some point. I'm not so sure on Fowler.
I'm not so sure on Carpenter.
But at least his hard contact is up, though, like 44% this year against righties, where, 8.5% soft contact rate and like a BABIP of like 193. I know his strikeout's up, but still.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it comes around. It's I don't know. It's one of those like I'm taking a wait and see approach.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But like the biggest concern I do have with Velasquez against this lineup is he is a guy that does pipe fastballs a lot. I mean, 67 or 66.5% of the time to righties, he's throwing that like 94-mile-an-hour fastball, and you do have guys like Tommy Pham and Paul DeYoung and whatnot that hit that pitch really, really well. But it hasn't really come back to haunt him that much this season.
No, it hasn't. This is a Cardinals team that I feel like can be quite boom or bust, and there is a lot of strikeouts within this lineup as well. Ozuna striking out quite a bit this year. Jerko, we mentioned Carpenter, like Paul DeJong. Like there are a lot of strikeout potential here for Velasquez, and he is fairly cheap.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the strikeout potential against the Giants, and he's had a couple of games like that, but he's also had a couple games where he's been completely shelled, and it comes down to his fastball. If it's working for him, he's going to be good. If it's not, he's going to suck. So, again, it's a tournament option, but I think he's an upside arm in the spot against the Cardinals team. I mean, 24% strikeout rate against righties this season. They are hitting the ball really hard, 38%. But with this game being in St. Louis, maybe that isn't as big of an issue.
Yeah, and it's Pham for me here. Like that's it.
Yeah, I mean, like Pham, DeYoung's a guy that hits those fastballs really well. 549 ISO, 46% hard contact, dating back to last season. So, I guess if you think that Velasquez is going to be popular and there's a chance he is, like if you wanted to stack like Pham, DeYoung, Martinez, and maybe Jerko or something like that, you could.
Yeah. Philly side things here. Luke Weaver, It's weird. He's not giving up a lot. It's just a guy where the walks have killed him a little bit. Not giving up a lot of hard contact this year. I don't have interest in him here, but I think he's going to be one of those guys who like allows a fair amount of base runners, but like doesn't allow a lot of damage tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he should, in theory, have some strikeout upside in the spot. I mean, we're talking about a guy with a 25.3% strikeout rate dating back to last season. It's been down this season. It's down to like 20.6% against a Phillies team that's striking out like 27% of the time against right-handed pitching. So he should be a guy that has some strikeout potential. It's just I don't know. I don't know if I can trust him in this spot, even against like a putrid offense like the Padres. He's just mediocre. Um, just giving up a lot of hits, and that could end up like punishing him here.
Yeah, and that's exactly like the start I want to refer to. It's just he got the win, which helped him out, but he really wasn't that great. Um, I don't know, and I think this is a similar lineup with a little bit more pop too, especially from the left side if they load up on lefties, which they can if like Nick Williams gets in the lineup. But I don't know. I can't get behind him here. I will continue to kind of look at like Odubel Herrera, who just keeps hitting the ball extremely well. But I'm not really thrilled with Phillies here either.
No, like I said, I think he's going to be popular, and so if you are playing cash on SP2 sites, you can probably eat the chalk with him, and just hope he gets you 20 fantasy points. The issue that the biggest issue I have with him is just like I said, like the hits get to him, and so that kind of inflates his pitch counts, and like he's only completed 6 innings I think in 2 of his 8 starts this season. If he's not going deep, that really limits his upside. Is he throwing like a 94-mile-an-hour fastball the majority of the time? You have guys like Rhys Hoskins who hit that pitch really well, Nick Williams, Franco, Kingery, and then of course you have like Carlos Santana and Odubel. You mentioned Odubel continues to absolutely just rake. Has been just ridiculously good recently.
Yeah, and you mentioned pitch count. Like Weaver's only working ahead in the count 50% of the time. It's not good.
Yeah. No, that's not.
So if Weaver's popular, I'm not on Weaver, so I'm more than willing to just fade.
Yeah, if he's popular, go for like a Philly stack or something in tournaments, and hopefully that like knocks out some of the field if he sucks.
Yeah. Chicago Braves. Well, Chicago and the Braves next year. Soroka taking on John Lester. And I'm starting to think John Lester might be like the whole Cole Hamels effect we had last year because velocity's down, just doesn't look that great. Doesn't have a lot of control. I don't know if he's injured. He doesn't look good.
No, he's had some blow up starts too, and he's also had some good starts, I guess. But man, it's the Braves versus a lefty, so I'm like all in on the Braves, even though they didn't make it in my stacking articles. Every time I write them up, they suck. So I did everyone a favor by not writing them up. But the Braves versus a lefty, I'm all in on the Braves, and so there's just no way I'm using Lester here against a team that doesn't strike out that much, anyways. Like there's just no upside here for him, I don't think.
No, and he's throwing that fastball and cutter majority of the time. And his fastball this season, 40% hard contact, 407 expected WOBA, and 28% ground ball rate. And then his cutter, 378 WOBA, 39% hard contact rate. And against cutters, like there's a lot of guys. Like despite being lefty on lefty, Freddie Freeman's a guy that stands out. I know a guy that you're looking at as well. If Tyler Flowers gets in the lab, 391 WOBA, 212 ISO, 53% hard contact rate against cutters, and hits that low velocity fastball pretty well too.
Yeah, this lineup basically everybody is in play. Ozzy Albies, dude, man, like his season, man, is just insane. Like I love him in this spot. I mean, we're talking 314 ISO, 455 WOBA dating back to last season against lefties. Just a lot of hard contact, like 42% hard contact this season. I love this spot for him in a park that is built for like I guess lefty, so I guess it doesn't necessarily matter. But God, I still love him here. Acuna, you mentioned Freeman, lefty on lefty. I don't care. I love the spot for him. And then Markakis continues to rake against lefties, so I love that. And the rest of that lineup, like Flowers, Suzuki, doesn't matter which guy gets in the lineup. I love this spot for him. And we are talking prior to recording, Ender Inciarte. Dude has racked up like 18 steals already this season. He has some decent stolen base upside here.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I like the Brave stack here, and Cubs side things here. Um, I don't have a lot of interest in some of these bats. It's mainly kind of just Bryant and Rizzo if I'm going, and I kind of do like Rizzo here quite a bit just because of his numbers against sinkers.
Yeah, and real quick back to the Braves. Jose Bautista is not good, but he has decent numbers against cutters. And then Charlie Culberson, small sample, but has been raking against lefties. 42 at bats, 200 ISO.
Yeah, yeah. This Jose Bautista thing is not going to just keep continuing like this.
I don't know that he's going to go away anytime soon. Unfortunately, I wish he
No.
would. But I mean, if they're going to roll him out there, he's cheap almost every single night. So
Yeah, and at least he's outfield eligible.
yeah,
But Cubs, it's Rizzo and Bryant here for me. I kind of feel like the Cubs will still gain some ownership here tonight, even against Soroka. But I do like Rizzo here, 476 WOBA, 360 ISO against sinkers with 39% hard contact rate. The problem is, I mean, he's got a pretty good slider as well.
yeah, I'd be looking at like. I actually think Soroka's in play as a pitching option here. Just a guy. I mean, 22% strikeout rate, nothing like phenomenal, but this Cubs team we've seen at times has just been putrid against righties. Like we saw Volte rack up like 10 strikeouts or something like that the other night. I mean, even last night McCarthy was solid against him. But like you are obviously worried about Rizzo, Bryant, I guess Zobrist and Schwarber being the guys that do hit sinkers pretty well, but I don't know. I think this is a decent spot for Soroka, so like I'm more inclined to use him over the Cubs bats, who I think will be popular again.
Yeah, I like him. Kind of unlucky with the unearned runs, in that last start against Miami, but still struck out 7 bats. A guy I think can get 5, 6 innings here, and I do agree that he has some strikeout upside against this team. It does not show, but I think in that bottom half there are more strikeouts than what's presented.
Yeah, and then who knows what lineup's going to get in there? Like we could actually end up getting some higher strikeout bats in there.
You mean Ian Happ?
Yeah,
You can say it. You can say it.
Ian Happ has like 36% strikeout rate.
You very well could. It's just everything is lowered because like those front 4 guys just have like sub 15% strikeout rates.
Yeah.
So next one here, Texas and Chicago. Definitely an interesting game here. Cole Hamels taking on James Shields. I like Cole Hamels. Like you mentioned, like he's the most expensive guy. He shouldn't be, but he is just because of how the slate presents itself. There was only one bat that I'm really, really worried about, and it's Matt Davidson.
Yeah, I have to give the sites a little bit of credit because like I guess FanDuel didn't do it, but like DraftKings, Cole Hamels was like 6,900 his last start. He's basically been like that cheap for the majority of the outings. I guess he had one outing against Tampa Bay where he was like 10-3, but they did price him up, else people would be leaving like 10K on the table tonight against this White Sox team that just not good. Like you are worried a little bit about a couple of these bats, but I mean we're talking like 27% strikeout rate against lefties this season. They're still hitting the ball really hard, 41.3%. That does concern me with guys like Matt Davidson, who is hitting like 63% hard contact rate against lefties, and then you have like Tim Anderson and Jose Abreu and Yohan Moncada that hit the ball really hard. But like Hamels is a guy that I think he gets a bad rap. He hasn't been as bad as I think people think he has been. Like he has had a couple blow up outings, but like for the most part has been serviceable this season. And there's really not anywhere to pay up at pitcher tonight.
No, there's not. And, he's a guy who's missing some bat, 12.1 swinging strike rate this year, getting guys to swing outside the zone. He's a guy who's relying more on some of that other stuff, the change ups and cutters and things like that. And they've been pretty good, especially that change up this year, and especially that curveball over 40% whiff rates. And those are pitches I think he can get some strikeout upside with against this team. Referencing Davidson's just the 296 ISO against cutters and 373 ISO against changeups is something that really stands out to me here as like a contrarian third base option, because I think he will go overlooked because you have Donaldson and like Chris Bryant and a couple other third base options.
Yeah, and you do still have to worry about, I guess, Yohan Moncada, who hits cutters pretty well. Yolmer Sanchez, 317 ISO against cutters, but like Yolmer Sanchez, really, guys?
Yeah, I'm not tremendously worried.
No.
No. I mean, he doesn't even have an ISO against left-handed pitching this year.
He has a .099 dating back to last season.
So that says it all. But tons of strikeout upside here for Hamels. He is my favorite option on this slate.
Yeah, it's sad to say that Hamels is probably the top option, but yeah.
I know. I said that with such confidence. And it's not. I'm not confident, but I do like him here.
I was gonna say you have way more confidence than I do.
And I think a lot of people have a lot of confidence in the Rangers bats here tonight.
I don't know why. Like, I know it's James Shields, but like, what was the tweet that I read off to you earlier? Like last night, the Rangers sent like 5 batters with a sub 200 ISO or sub 200 batting average to the plate last night.
Yeah, they're not great. There are a couple bats here. Like, I love Nomar Mazara here tonight. Like, he's one of my favorite options on the slate. Just a guy who, it's kind of the same thing. Shields throwing that cutter quite a bit. We've seen kind of Mazara finally get rewarded this year. 240 ISO, 371 WOBA. Has a 374 WOBA against cutters. Like, I like Mazara here a lot, and he's still fairly cheap.
It would be the lefties because James Shields dating back last season, 223 ISO allowed, 356 WOBA allowed to lefties. So you're looking at, Mazara, as you mentioned, this would be a great spot for Joey Gallo. 323 ISO to right-handed pitching, and he has 364 ISO against cutters, although it's only like 10 batted ball events. Ronald Guzman is a name to keep an eye on if he's towards the bottom of that lineup. The lefties for me, the choose Profar, Mazara, Gallo is probably going to be your popular stack. Rougned Odor, Guzman, 2 pivots if you're wanting to get more lefty exposure and fade some of the chalky options.
Yeah, I think the only righty I like is Trinos, just from a power catcher standpoint. Dating back to last year against right-handed pitching, got with a 240 ISO. And still, I mean, Shield has given up a lot of hard contact to right-handers as well. Just hasn't really shown completely compared towards the lefties.
And we're talking 43% fly ball rate to right-handed pitching, and this is a hitter's park. So
yeah, Trinos is probably the only righty, but it's mainly Gallo and Mazara here.
Yeah.
Getting into these later games, this is kind of feel like we start to really drop off, and I think it starts with this Angels and Rays. As bad as Archer has been this year, I don't know if I'm exactly just going to go out there and completely attack him tonight. Like, I feel like he's kind of been a little bit unlucky, especially with the home runs.
It's possible. I mean, I do have some concerns. Like, the numbers against lefties have been a thing dating back to last season. Still a lot of hard contact to lefties, almost 42%, 339 WOBA allowed. And you're going to get like Ohtani. They can throw like Valbuena, Calhoun in there. Maybe they throw in another lefty somewhere. I guess if you wanted a tournament arm, like, you could roll Archer out, even though there's not a lot of strikeout upside available for him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I think he is a viable tournament arm just because of his price, and I think the ownership. I think people are just done with Archer. I don't know. I mean, I really do like Ohtani a lot because we have seen lefties just crush Archer, and we look like Ohtani's just making solid contact night in and night out. I never will hate my Trout, but there are not a lot of great bats that have numbers against, sliders. So if his slider's on, I think he can be decent. It's just like I'm done trying to kind of use Archer, I guess.
Hey, don't overlook Cole Calhoun. He's heating up with 2 hits in his last 2 games.
Oh, man, are they like infield singles?
One of them was a double.
Hey, good for him. He's playing awesome defense, so it makes up for him. But unfortunately, we don't get points for defense.
No, we don't. He has 5 hits in his last 10 games. Whew, boy, he's heating up.
And I'm a bummer because I was kind of high on Calhoun coming into the year.
I was too, because the adjustments to the lower boundary out there, but it hasn't worked for him.
No. It's Trout, Ohtani, Upton. Those are the guys I'd probably look to use here, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I was hoping there's like more lefties, but like I said, maybe Valbuena.
Yeah, if he gets in the lineup, I'm okay with them as well.
Yeah.
Tyler Skaggs, been a guy who's been pretty decent this year. Has not allowed more than 2 runs outside that Boston start. So I mean, seven starts where he's allowed 2 or less earned runs. 23 strikeouts over his last 3 starts. I don't mind him here. CJ Cron revenge game.
Oh boy, there you go. I do. Man, I wish Skaggs wasn't like the second highest priced pitcher on the slate. I think he has potential here. Like, this is a Rays team that generally I don't like taking lefties against because they are pretty decent against lefties. They hit the ball pretty hard, 333 WOBA this season. You have guys like Crone, Johnny Field, Joey Wendell, Wilson Ramos that do hit lefties really, really, really hard. That is a little concerning whenever you have Skaggs, but like, he's not giving up a ton of hard contact or fly balls to righties, like 35% hard contact dating back to last season, but he's limiting the fly balls. So maybe that helps him here.
I think so. And, I mentioned Cron revenge game, but I actually just think he's a really solid play in general just because he's got solid numbers against curves, 372 WOBA, 284 ISO, 68% contact rate, so that's a little low, but I think Cron, just the way he's been flashing this year, just some upside. I don't mind him, but I do like Skaggs. I don't like the price, like you mentioned, but I get it because of how the slate sets up, and Skaggs has actually pitched pretty well. But he's a guy I think is cash viable. Like, I don't mind like a Hamill Skaggs lineup just because there's so much value on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not wanting to leave like 4K on the table, then you're probably using Hamels and Skaggs and just hoping they don't get blown up.
You might still be able to.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine though, and I say that with confidence a little bit, but not as much as you expect.
Yeah, you know that tweet that was going around a couple days ago with that girl like hanging off that skyscraper, and
oh my god,
that's you whenever you're talking about Cole Hamels and Tyler Skaggs tonight. Find you someone with as much confidence in those two arms as Jason has.
Well, she didn't die, so I think I'm okay tonight.
She didn't die. That's a great expectation there.
Next game here, we got Detroit and Seattle. Marco Gonzalez versus Matt Boyd, 2 lefties. There's definitely a couple bats here I enjoy, I think, on both sides. I think Detroit will go overlook. I really like Nick Castellanos once again, a guy that I think people have just overlooked this year because Detroit's been so bad, but Castellanos just continues to rake. He's always been a guy who rakes lefties.
Yes, he has, and this is a decent spot for him. I like him. I don't know if he's gonna fit in my lineup construction because he's only outfield eligible, and there's a lot of great outfield options tonight. But as a tournament option, I think he's definitely viable against Marco Gonzalez, who hasn't been terrible, but also has not really been good. I mean, he's 388 WOBA allowed dating back to last season to righties, 36% hard contact, so this is a Detroit lineup that can get pretty right-handed heavy.
Yeah, like you're going to see a couple guys like McCann and Hicks, who I have some interest in behind the dish. Both over 400 WOBA against lefties. You're probably going to see maybe Jacoby Jones or Matuk, a guy out there who will probably lead off. And there's some options here if you want to get contrarian. They're all going to be guys I think will be like sub 10% ownership. But then again, I feel like for a Thursday slate, there's still a lot of ways you can go still over Detroit.
Yeah, you'd be looking at like Matuk, who's actually decent against sinkers, 212 ISO dating back to 2016. Pete Cosma, only 10 batted ball events, but 308 ISO, but only a 12.5% hard contact rate. So I don't think those two things are going to continue. One of them is going to give. Those would be the guys that I would look at, and then Castellanos, McCann, or Hicks.
Yeah. Seattle side of things here, Nelson Cruz banged up. I don't know if he's hit the DL yet, but I don't expect him to be in tonight.
No, I don't think he has hit the DL. They might send him. They might do it though.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be out a few games though, from what I've seen from Seattle Times here.
Yeah, it says the Mariners are optimistic he'll avoid the 10-day and rejoin the team over the weekend.
So it doesn't mean this team is I don't feel like they take a huge downgrade. I really like Mitch Haniger here, especially against Boyd, because Boyd is throwing that slider 31% of the time. And I know the Haniger contact rate isn't great, but still 395 WOBA, 297 ISO against the pitch. And I'm still not buying into Boyd here.
I don't know. I don't necessarily buy into it either, but he continues to defy us and put it loud just like one run almost every single night, and it's frustrating to stack against him when he does that. But I think what was it Seattle last time out he gave up 3 earned runs, so progress.
And I kind of like guys like, especially guys you don't see often in back-to-back starts. I think it's interesting here. Because I mean, still insane fly ball rates, to both sides of the plate. You have guys like Haniger, Ryan Healy, who just mashes lefties, a guy that I like. And you are going to get some cheap bats, in that bottom half of the lineup. I mean, they're not the greatest, but they're there. Mike Zunino, Gene Segura, a couple other guys I don't mind here either.
Yeah, I'd be looking at Haniger. Don't overlook Seager, lefty versus lefty. He's starting to show a decent amount of power. I mean, we're talking like 190 ISO dating back to last season, but Boyd is also throwing like a really low velocity four seam fastball. Is it topping out at like 89, 90 miles an hour? Zunino, 9 batted ball events, so limited sample size here, but 909 ISO, 55.56 hard contact rate. So good numbers there. Ryan Healy, Mitch Haniger hit those pitches really well. D. Gordon hits it really well too. So does Gene Segura. And even like Andrew Romine or Gordon Beckham down towards the bottom of that lineup. Right now, I think both are projected. But if either one of those options, you can roll out too.
Definitely. I don't know if I'm stacking Seattle. I think they're like kind of one-offs, two-offs here for me.
Yeah, I'm probably going like Zunino, Healy, and like Haniger, like one-offs or two-offs, or even like a 3-man stack.
Yeah, that's Colorado, San Francisco. We got Chad Bettis taking on the Shark, who's missing a fin. Yeah, he's definitely up. We've talked about this before. And Vegas isn't buying into it. I don't think a lot of people in the industry are going to buy into it, but you and I are looking at some of these lefties here.
I was going to call him Left Shark.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't study any of the slate. We just figured out what we're going to call Samardzija tonight.
Basically, Katy Perry appreciates this. Man, lefties. I wrote up the lefties in the stacking article, and there's probably only going to be like 3 in the lineup, but like I'm okay with that, as like you don't have to stack 4 or 5 bats to consider a stack. You don't have to go, and they're probably not going to be like 1 through 4. Like you don't have to do that either. But against lefties, dating back to last season, 232 ISO, 332 WOBA allowed. This season, 478 WOBA allowed, 349 ISO. His velocity is down across the board. His control is just way off. Like this is such a good spot for these lefties, and I hope it's David Dahl that makes the lineup over like Gerardo Parra. Please, for the love of God, just stop with Gerardo Parra. Dude is trash. We need David Dahl playing time. 237 ISO, 440 WOBA, dating back to last season. Actually, I guess that's just this season alone because he didn't play last season. Charlie Blackmon, excellent spot here, and Carlos Gonzalez projected to back cleanup. I love the spot for him too.
Yeah, I really like it. And he's just giving up so much fly ball, 48.6% fly ball rate, 31% hard contact rate. That sinker is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Hitters have just a 31% ground ball rate against it. He's allowed a 244 ISO, so guys obviously hit the sinker well. A lot of those lefties outside of cargo for some reason, but I don't know. I like him here. I mean, all those guys are fairly cheap outside of Blackmon, and Blackmon has potential here for a huge game even in AT&T.
Yeah, interesting. Like Samardzija, like if you look at his heat map for his pitch frequency, like 11, almost 12% of his pitches are like in that right. If you're looking at the plate from the pitcher's perspective, like the middle right side of the plate, 470 at ISO for Blackmon off pitches in that zone. That's good.
Yeah, and this is one of the few times where you can probably get Blackmon at some reasonable ownership as well.
Yes.
So, home run calls tonight. Oh, I guess we need to talk about the Giants side. I like Chad Bettis.
I was going to say, do we actually have to talk about them? I don't mind Chad Bettis in the spot. Like, he's been fairly solid outside of Coors. The biggest issue I have is for some reason the Giants are just, like, better at home, I guess. They like playing at home, but, like, this team still sucks. Where are we talking now? 24.6% strikeout rate against righties this season. 38.7% hard contact though, which is a little concerning. But Bettis doesn't really have any numbers that stand out as like really bad. I guess the 336 WOBA allowed to righties. I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it. Like I feel like he's a guy who just can eat some innings here tonight. You mentioned like away from Coors, he's been fine this season. 260 WOBA out compared to 379 at home. I mean, he's gone 7 innings in all but one of his 5 road starts this year. Has some decent numbers against his Giants lineup as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind him. Like, I feel like he doesn't have a ton of upside, but I feel like he's a guy who can get you 15 to 20 fantasy points on, and he's just a DK guy.
Yeah, he's just a DK guy. So, I mean, yeah, I definitely don't mind him in this spot.
No, the only guys I probably look at is like maybe a Brandon Crawford, who's been hitting the ball really well this month, and like Brandon Belt. And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So, not thrilling for the Giants side as usual. Home run calls. I have trouble narrowing it down, but here we go.
I have no issues. Franchi Cordero.
Come on, I knew it. And
Ozzy Albies.
Oh, man. Give me Matt Joyce. I knew it. Matt Joyce and Norman Mazzara.
I can dig it.
That's it for us. Head over to dailyfantasycafe.com, cheat sheet, stacking article, all that good stuff up on the site now. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow.
Good luck tonight.